Hello, guys, and welcome back again to another amazing episode. And this is the Diaspora Transition episode. We speak with people who moved back from the diaspora and currently living here in Ghana or on the continent in general. And today we do have someone very special. But before I introduce him, if you don't know who I am, my name is Hayford. I see so many people commenting down below, Mr. Interviewer. My name is Hayford. Okay, feel free to call me Hayford. I'm a content creator, a cinematographer, and I do videos like this. I travel around the world. I show you nice places. I speak to people. I interview people, and yeah, you can follow me on Instagram right there. So without further ado, let me introduce my guest on the show. And he goes by the name Dan. He moved from the US and he's currently here in Ghana. And we're about to have a very good conversation. So if you want to enjoy, stay tuned. So without further ado, Dan, welcome on the show.
Yes, I have to correct you though.
Okay.
We moved from Canada.
Canada. Really? But you sound American. That's it. I got it twisted. Guys, Canada.
Yes.
Okay, let me ask you this.
Yes.
Isn't it the same? Isn't it close to each other?
They're close to each
Yeah.
other, definitely. I mean, Canada borders the U.S.
Yeah.
Just south of Canada
Yeah.
is the U.S. And I was from Montreal. Or I am from Montreal. And Montreal is not that far. The closest border, U.S. border to Montreal is about 45 minutes away.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Guys, I'm just trying to justify the mistake that I made. But Canada, wow. Why did you
Yes.
decide to come to Ghana?
Well, a number of reasons. I've always known that I wanted to move to a warmer country.
Okay.
Canada, Montreal,
Cold.
at least 6 months of the year we're in the cold. 4 months is hardcore winter. So I always knew that I wanted to move to a warmer country.
Wow.
So when my wife and I met, from the get-go, we both knew that we wanted to leave Canada. So we started looking, doing some soft research, but we weren't sure exactly where we were going to go. I have family from the Caribbean.
Okay.
She has family. Her family's from Africa, from Congo.
Congo,
So we
okay.
spoke about going to Africa. We spoke about going to the Caribbean, even South America, just as loose ideas. But we never really settled down on a place where we would go. Like, I wasn't too sure if I wanted to go to the Caribbean.
Yeah.
We weren't too. So we didn't know. But eventually, as the years went by, and the thing is, we said that which is really interesting, is that we said that we wanted to leave in 5 years after we got married.
Okay.
So as the years went by, we kind of loosely had our plans. We would talk about it here and there, but we didn't have anything set in stone. Then the pandemic hit.
Wow.
And that caused a lot of people to think about life and question certain things. And the way that certain things were going in Canada, we just decided, you know what, let's take the opportunity now. We feel motivated to go, let's go.
Wow.
And we started to decide that around August of 2021. And by October of 2021,
You left.
we were gone.
Wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah.
Guys, that's pretty interesting. Really? Just
Yes,
like that?
just
Within
like
how many
that.
months? 2, 3 months?
Well, 3 months about.
Wow.
Yeah.
And which part of the Caribbean were your family from?
So my family's from Barbados.
Barbados.
Yes.
But why was that not an option for you to go back there?
I've been to Barbados before. I love the island of Barbados, but I felt that I would not be able to grow the way that I would like to grow in Barbados, because it's a small island. It's about 300,000 people, the total population.
Okay.
166 square miles is the total size.
Okay.
And it's a great place to live. It's very safe. The beaches are beautiful.
Yeah, blue.
The people are friendly. Obviously, I have family there and whatnot. But I just felt like it wasn't the place where I felt like I would be able to grow and do the things that I want to do.
I like that. That makes sense. But I would like to visit there because the beaches are quite blue and
Yes,
stuff like
yes,
that.
yes,
I
for
wish
sure.
we can just take that part and just transfer it to Ghana, but we don't get too much into that. So
Yes.
you decided to move back. How easy was it, trying to leave Canada in 3 months? Because that would be quite a pressure.
Yes. Well, I mean, I think there's two sides to it, right? One, I think it made it easier because we decided to do it so quickly, because we didn't have time to think a lot of things through.
Right.
But then on the other side, there was a lot of things to organize and to get together to be able to move in such a short period of time.
I like that.
So
I like that. So when did you arrive in Ghana? 2017 October, right?
No, 2021.
21, sorry,
Yes.
2021's October.
Yes.
And then how was it like when you stayed? Because you came with your family. I saw your
Yes.
two kids and
Yes.
then your wife.
Yes.
How was it like when you touched down? Was it the first time visiting Ghana or Africa?
Yes. First
Yeah.
time Ghana and Africa.
Yeah. So
Yes.
what? Why was it? Were you so confident choosing Ghana? Because
Well, I mean, we did a lot of research,
okay.
definitely. Like I said, we've been looking from time to time.
Mm-hmm.
We've seen a lot of YouTubers like yourself and other people share stories and
Mm-hmm.
videos about different places.
Mm-hmm.
But one thing that stood out is that there was a lot of information on Ghana. And because of the year of return, I think the spotlight was really on
In
here.
Ghana. Yeah.
So we did our research, and I started to realize that, you know what, moving to Ghana isn't going to change my life that much in terms of what I know. I was in the beginning, I was a little bit afraid of the unknown because I'm like, I don't know what to expect. I'm coming here with my entire family. You know, what if XYZ happens? You never know. But through watching videos, through watching people's testimonials, I was watching videos of what's the worst things
Things that can happen.
that can happen here, what's the worst things to expect. And I started to realize that, listen, most of the basic things that I need in life, I can find here in Ghana.
Wow.
And you know, if I want to go to the mall, I want to go to the grocery store. If I want to drive my car, you know, if I want to send my children to school, if I want to find, you know, decent accommodations to live, like all of the things that are necessary to live a happy and balanced life, they're available here in Ghana.
Wow.
Now, obviously, there's going to be challenges, but that's going to be with anywhere that you go. So I'm
Very
like,
true.
why not? And plus, I knew some Ghanaians already. I had Ghanaian friends in Montreal. Also, my wife had a friend, or has a friend, sorry, that lives here, and that moved from Belgium. And we also had some friends from Montreal who moved here. So we had a few contacts here on the ground that would help us navigate through
Okay.
what was going on.
Okay,
So
then
that definitely helped a lot.
that helped a lot, right?
Yes.
Okay. Now, let's say when you arrived in the country,
Yes.
what was the feeling like? You know, because it's your first time in Africa, Ghana. How did you feel like though?
The first thing is I can't believe I'm here. You know, I'm like, wow, you know, I'm here. We did this because, you know, the journey to come here. I was like, there's so many little things that could have gone wrong because we did everything so quickly that maybe we would not have made it in the way that we did things. So the first thing was, wow, we did it. We're here. The second thing was, I'm looking around, and you know, I haven't really said this much, but one of the things that struck me first was being on the highway, JJ Rawlings, and the exhaust,
The
the
fumes.
fumes. I wasn't expecting that. You know, my first thought, you know, of coming to Africa and, you know, being on the continent, I was thinking about nature. I was thinking about, you know, a lot of different things. So when I got on the highway and I felt the exhaust
Yeah.
fumes, I'm just like, wow,
Wait a
okay,
minute.
this was a little bit unexpected, but at the same time, I'm just like, you know, I was just taking in everything, looking around, you know, just being on the highway and it was just a wonderful experience because even though I was stepping into the unknown, I felt like I was heading in the right direction.
Wow.
Yeah.
Did you? How was your sleep? The first sleep you had in Ghana?
Honestly, I think it was great because I can't even recall
Yeah.
the first night. It was great. Like we had our friends that we knew from Montreal receive us when we came here, and so they were very helpful. They were very warming. So that helped a lot.
That's good.
That really helped a lot.
Now, I've seen you work, and I've seen you here doing amazing works here with your DJing. When it
Yes.
comes to music, you are huge in music.
Yes.
And I've seen what you're doing. Can we go back a little bit
Yes.
on what you were doing in Canada at that time, and you know why you left it behind? I don't know the reason you left it back behind, but you know, upbringing to that point and leaving to Ghana a little bit, and why you choose to continue that here. Can we talk about that a little bit?
So when I was in Canada, I was working as a DJ full time. Um, at that point in time when I was deciding to leave, I was working in some bars and some restaurants and stuff, and actually things were going pretty well. I was working with a company, and they would also send me a lot of private gigs and stuff, and I would do private gigs and this and that, and things were really going well. But with what was happening with COVID in Canada, I didn't really like the direction at that time, how things were going. And just because of certain things that came out on the news and on the radio, and there were some scare tactics and different things that were going on, that prompted me to say, you know what, I don't feel comfortable in this scenario anymore.
Wow.
So from there, I came home one day, and this was in August, and I came to my wife and I said, you know what, I think we should start looking into leaving. We've been saying we want to leave. We should start looking into it. Then the next day, another piece of news came out, and I'm like, okay, no, you know what? Definitely,
Yeah,
we
we are
need to
leaving.
start planning how we're gonna leave.
Wow.
So from there, I just decided, what, let's get serious about this, and let's do that, because I really don't feel that this it is our future. And the thing is, I still have opportunity. If I were to go back to Canada right now, there's certain opportunities that I would have. But there was something about, one, the continent, being on the continent, two, connecting with people. And so far, since I've been here, the way that I've been able to connect with certain people, the potential that I see for growth, I feel like the potential for growth here is exponential. Whereas when I was in Canada, there definitely was a potential for growth, but not in the same capacity. There's somewhat of a glass ceiling, I feel that you
Really?
hit, when you're in Canada, or you're in the U.S., especially as a black person.
Wow.
It's not to say that you can't make it, and it's not to say that you can't have a great life, but it's different when you're surrounded by people
Let's talk
that look like you
about
all the
some of
time.
the, yeah,
Yes.
some of the glass ceilings, in the US and Canada. Let's talk about that a little bit and then
Okay.
compare that to Ghana in terms of opportunities that are available here, and then the impact you'd be able to make in Africa that you were not, to make in Canada or US, if that was the case.
Well, okay, I'm gonna go back a little bit then. So I come from a line of DJs in my family. I have an uncle. He was really the first, the pioneer, who's a DJ, and I have my older brother who's a DJ as well. And also my father was into music heavily as well. He did some DJing and some other things. So, talking to my uncle specifically, and talking about his experience, in the 80s and whatnot, and where he would be DJing at clubs, and they wouldn't want him to bring his friends. They're like, you're okay, but your friends can't come,
Wow.
because they didn't want,
Because they are black?
exactly, because they're
Wow.
black. So that was just one thing. So now fast forward to the time where I'm a young man, I'm going out and partying. There were certain clubs that we would have a hard time getting into because we were black.
Wow.
And there were certain areas and there were certain places where they didn't really hire black DJs. They would be playing black music,
But
but
it
they
was a
didn't
white
really.
person playing it.
Yes, it was a
Oh.
white person or maybe an Asian DJ, and it's nothing against them, because a lot of these people are my friends and my peers and whatnot. But that was just the reality
Wow.
of the situation that you were in. So, fortunate for me, I was able to get myself into certain places where you wouldn't typically see a black person, but that was not the norm in a lot of the cases. So also, when I looked at now in terms of ownership, and really integrating yourself into what's happening, it's much harder to do so, because you're always kind of looked at as an outsider
Wow.
in a certain sense. Even though people will look at you, they'll be friendly, and in some cases you will get included, but not on
Yeah.
on a
You don't feel
major.
accepted 100%.
Exactly. So when I compare that to being here, everywhere I go, people are looking at me. They're not judging me for the color of my skin, and not that I was facing, because this is the interesting thing. Not that I was facing a heavy set of racism when I was in Canada. My wife says it best. They'll smile in your face and talk behind your back,
Yeah.
and it's like, I have a lot of white friends. I have a lot of friends from different cultures. So I don't have anything against anybody. But you can tell that in certain scenarios, in certain spaces, in certain workspaces, people do look at you different
Differently. Wow.
because you're black, and they do treat you differently, and they also have a certain expectation because you're a black person.
Wow.
Like one of the things that I would get, growing up and being in school, they'd be like, "Oh, you're not like the others," trying to say like, okay, because you act a certain way, because you carry yourself a certain way, because you have a certain level of intelligence, you're okay,
Wow. But
type of
that
thing.
is
But the others are not.
wow. What did that do to you though? Growing up and you were young at that time and hearing
Yes.
something like that.
At the time, like I kind of just brushed it off in a sense. It's just like but when you go back and you look at these situations and you start to think about it, it's like, well, okay, but what do these people really mean?
Mean.
And or people will look at you and be like, oh, well, he comes from a good family. You know what I mean? And
I've
it's like,
heard this
okay,
before.
it's
So
like,
that's why he's different.
yeah, it's like, but I mean, so if you didn't know me then, that means that you're judging me already,
Yeah.
just because of the color of my skin.
Wow.
And that happens a lot.
And then someone would say this is more in the US, but you're saying Canada is the same
In
way.
Canada's the same way.
Wow.
The difference with that I would draw, I mean, from my personal experience with Canada in the US is that there's more frequent incidents of racism in the
The US
US than
compared to
compared to Canada. But
Okay.
Canada's also much smaller. I mean, the total population of Canada is about 30 million, whereas
really?
California in the US is 30 million
Wow.
people.
Wow.
So there's not as much emphasis, and we're a smaller number of black people in Canada than in the U.S.
Wow.
So, but the same things that happen in the U.S. also happen in Canada, in terms of racial profiling, in
Police
terms of
brutality.
police brutality, in terms of in the education system. A lot of the black children are somewhat left back. I mean,
Let's talk
again,
about that.
but there's two sides to it. But I just noticed again, and this is from my personal experience. This is not everybody's experience,
Right.
but I noticed when I was in high school, particularly, that there were a group of guys, and all black guys, and we were all the same age. And out of this group of guys, I was the only one that was at my grade level.
Okay.
A few of them were
Behind?
a few grades behind. Now there were guys in my grade that we were black and we were in the same grade, but I just noticed that there was for the number of black students that we were in the school, there were a few guys that were behind their grade level, and it's disproportionate in terms of the amount of people that there are in the school in general for the number of black children that were a bit behind. So I was just like, okay, well, there is definitely something
Yeah.
to this.
Yeah.
And I realized that they were in remedial programs and stuff like that. So I'm just like, there definitely is something to this.
Wow.
And as we were going through and in different levels of, it always just seemed like we were a step
Behind
a step
everybody.
behind everybody else.
Wow.
And I think it's attributed to many different things. The system is one. Two, just that we don't have always the support that we need within the community. And when I look at most of the the people that I knew that found themselves in their situation, oftentimes it was single parent homes. It was lower economic financial situations. So there's a lot of things that contribute to that. So bringing it back to me being here in Africa, when I look at everything, it only made sense for me to come back to where my original ancestors were from.
Wow.
Because of everything that I experienced, I started to question my personal identity, and who am I really as a person? People just say we're black, but I mean
Yeah.
we're not black.
Yeah.
The you can't see it in the camera. Okay, we'll see this now. This is
This
black.
is black.
You know what I mean? But I'm not a black person. I'm actually brown. So
Yes.
I mean that's a whole other discussion that we can get into. But so I decided to identify myself as an African, Caribbean, Canadian.
Wow. African
Because
Caribbean
Africa
Canadian.
first,
First.
because that's where my initial ancestors came from. Caribbean, because my parents and my grandparents and so forth,
Wow.
they were born in Barbados, and then Canadian because that's where I was born.
Wow. Wow. This deep. People, I've heard people like yourself with the same skin color like you and I, living in the US and Canada would tell you that, brother, I know what you mean, but I'm not from Africa.
Right.
And you are saying you are an African after you did your research. For someone saying that right now, from what you've seen by reading and researching, what would you say to somebody like that?
Well, the thing is that you have to understand that a lot of work has been done to erase our identity. And the fact that you can sit there and say that I am not an African shows that the work that they've done has worked. And we need to get back to claiming who we are as a people. Now, on the other side note of that though, is that there were Africans outside of Africa before slavery. So it is possible that there are some people in other places who are African still anyway, because they still I
They
mean
still came
they
from our
still came
continent,
from they
right?
still came from our continent, but maybe they don't identify in the way that we're classified, today. But I say that, you know, we need to embrace our heritage. We need to embrace who we are, and we need to know where we come from. Just like a tree that has roots, it's important to know where your roots are because that helps you to grow and flourish.
Yes.
And if you are denying that part of your identity, it's going to limit your growth.
True. And I always ask this question, who is even an American? Because in America, the native even, you know, let's talk about even the Europeans or the,
Right.
the, the Caucasians, they still came from Europe.
Yep.
So even them, they are not Americans. Americans
Yes.
is just like a brand name. I'm sorry, but
No,
don't
no,
come.
it's cool.
That's how I see it, right?
No, it's
Because
cool. It's
you see
cool.
all ethnicity in the U.S. and who is really American? Because
Mm-hmm.
you see Chinese there, you see Mexican, you see Africans, you see everybody there. So if you say I'm not an African, but I'm American, it's hard to understand. But let's just move on from that.
Yes.
Canada, right? Did you growing up and going to school and seeing all those segregation kind of be like, wow, I don't want to see my kids grow up here to go through what I went through? Did that contribute to that, you know, for you coming here?
Well, I'm gonna say it this way. I went to school. Most of the time, predominantly, I was one of the only black children in the class,
Wow.
and sometimes the only black child in the class. And I know definitely that that did have an impact on me. In some ways, good, and in some ways, bad, because in terms of relating with my Caucasian brothers and sisters and people of, because I mean I went to school with Chinese people, I went to school with Indian people, I went to school with Greek people, I went to school with a whole bunch of different ethnicities. So in terms of being able to relate to different people, I think it was a very positive experience because I have no issue when it comes to dealing with anyone.
Wow.
Like I just look at people as people
People,
because
right.
that's how I grew up around people. But then on the other hand, you do feel a sense of isolation. Because what I would notice is that anytime you were in a school setting or a type of social setting and you see that other black person, we're
Yeah.
immediately happy to
Happy
see
to
to
see
see
it.
each other and greet. It's like, okay, yes,
Yeah.
yes,
Yeah.
there's another one of us here, and you as you're living through it, you don't realize everything as it's happening to you, and I can say that, overall, my childhood experience was great. Like I did not have a negative childhood experience. Like
Okay.
I've heard a lot of people speak about, especially people from the States, speak about their childhood experience and their school experience and what they had to deal with and different things and extreme forms of racism. Like I've never really had to face anything super extreme. Things
Okay.
were a lot more subtle.
Awesome.
And so me leaving there was not because I'm like, this is the worst place
Yes.
that I need to
Yes.
leave from,
Yes.
and I just need to get out of there. But when I look at it in terms of the subtle psychological effects and the type of experience that I want my children to have, I want them to be able to reach their maximum and their full potential. And I feel that the way that the system is set up in Canada, particularly, is not conducive for people to really, especially people of African descent, to reach their maximum potential.
Wow, wow.
Yeah.
That's huge, guys. And that you choose to come to Ghana and you're here. Let's talk about the grounds and opportunities, or even knowing there's no glass ceiling here, and then how far you think or you've imagined and visioned you can go here. And then let's talk about that. But before you get into that, there's Africans on the continent saying that they believe they need to go to Canada before they make it. So we will speak right after you explain
Yes.
that. Let's take it from there.
So
The
which
first one, coming here, kind of no glass ceiling, your
okay.
potentials, how far you
Yes.
can be able to.
So I see Ghana as the land of opportunities. And the reason why I say that is because coming from Canada and having the experience that I've seen here, coming here I realized that Ghana is missing a lot of infrastructure.
Okay.
There are a lot of intelligent people here. There are a lot of people with great ideas, but we're missing the infrastructure to make a lot of things happen. The second thing that I noticed is that in a lot of cases, what's missing here is funding for a lot of things. There's not a lot of money in circulation in the same way as it is in Canada. So if you can come here and you have the funding and you know how to set up the infrastructure, you can do almost anything here.
Wow.
You can do anything here.
Wow.
And the thing is, if you're coming here, as a black person, you're going to get a different type of respect than you would get if you were in Canada or in the US. Now, not to say that there's not going to be different challenges here, because Ghana has its set of challenges as
Right.
well. But the thing is, so far since I've been here, the Ghanaians that I've met, as well as the other diasporans that I've met, everybody really wants to work together and cooperate.
True.
Just how
True.
we've come together now, and
Yes.
we're doing this
Yes.
interview because we need to get these stories
True.
out. You know, there is a spirit of cooperation. There is a spirit of unity. And I think us as the entire African collective, on a fundamental level, we realize that we need to be working with our brothers and sisters that are abroad, wherever you are in the world. It doesn't matter whether you're in Africa, you're in Ghana, you're in Nigeria, you're in Namibia, you're in the UK, you're wherever, that we need to start coming together and working together and set aside our differences and realize what our commonalities are and use those so that we can strengthen each other. Because it seems like everywhere we go in the world, even here on this continent, that we are at the bottom to a certain level, and we need to change that.
Now I heard someone say black people, it's hard for black people to work together, and they also I've had Ghanaians who are first generation Americans. I don't know if I'm getting it right, but their parents were born here, and then they were born in the U.S. Their kids were born in the U.S. and they said they had a very bad experience with people, the Native African Americans, who were trapped there because of the slavery and all those things, and they had the worst racism coming from their own brothers living in Canada and U.S. Why do you think that is, though?
I think it's just a lack of education and a lack of self-awareness. One, if you can look at a person that looks like you and you look down on them, on some level that means that you look down on yourself. You don't have a good image of yourself.
Wow.
And I think that has to do, again, I think that is a bit more prevalent in the American system, but it's also there in the Canadian system as well. Because in the educational system, we do not see a lot of people that look like us. White people, unfortunately, in the educational system, are put on a pedestal. Everything that you see is white. In terms of our history, it's Eurocentric history. In terms of anytime you see certain things on television, certain things, everything that is white is glamorized. So the vision of the African of themselves is not a good one. And especially now when you take Canadians that have limited knowledge about Africa, or Americans that have limited knowledge of Africa, all they've seen are those commercials
Right.
and certain stereotypes of Africa, and they have no idea. So when they're met now with an African brother or sister that's from Ghana or wherever, they look at them like, well, you're just this backwards
Yeah.
person that lives in a hut, and
Yeah.
so because of that, I think that's why we get these issues, and that's why I think, again, it's important to be doing this, because we see that there's a different side to things, and these stories need to be told more and more. People need to share their experience, and I'm gonna segue. I'm gonna jump ahead of you a little bit, and say that one of the things that I realized coming here is that I meet a lot of Ghanaians that want to go to Canada, or want to go to the U.S., or whatnot, and I'm one of the ones that was over on the other side that wanted to come here, and now being here, I understand. Before, I didn't understand why a lot of Ghanaians wanted to leave here and go to
To the
Canada or to the US. But when I see that there's a lack of opportunities for them, the lack of resources, the lack of infrastructure when it comes to certain things, I understand when they look at the Canadian system, or they look at some parts of the American system, they can see that, okay, well, there's a system there that works. You have social programs. If you're on the lower level in Canada, we have a healthcare system that covers a lot of different things, which you don't have those things here.
Right. Right.
So I can understand now that looking at the benefits that come with being in a country like Canada, why you would want to move over there. But on the flip side, having been there and having had that experience, the other thing that I see is that people don't understand that life. Yes, you may be making more money, you have access to certain things, but you're basically just working to pay your
To death.
house. You owe to death. But it's funny you say that. The word, and so the thing is, Canada is a credit society. The majority of people that have a house and that have a car, they own that on credit. When you go to buy a house, right, you get a mortgage. Now, I speak both French and English.
Okay.
The word mort, M-O-R-T, like the one of the prefix in the word mortgage is death, and gauge, or mortgage, is basically a pledge. So you're basically pledging your life
To death.
to death with,
Wow.
with this instrument. So the system, the Canadian system, the credit system, the way it's set up is to just have you.
It's a trap.
Yeah, it's a trap. You're on that treadmill all the time, working for your house that you don't get the time spending, working for your car that you only really get to drive back and to and fro from work. If you live somewhere where, the traffic here in Ghana is bad too, but if you live somewhere where the traffic is bad, you're spending, let's say, 10 to 12 hours of your day on that commute back and home,
That's one third of
to
your
and fro,
life.
and that's one third of your life. That's just gone, and you're not able to enjoy a lot of the things that come with it. And now, if you're in a place like where I was in Montreal, and you add winter, and
You
into
can't even
that,
drive at all, right?
you can drive.
Okay.
Like, the one thing that Montreal especially, but Canada's good at, in terms of, they've adapted to winter. So the snow plows come out, they salt the streets, and when a big snowfall happens, and people, trust me, if you haven't been to Canada before, and you haven't experienced a real snowfall, which I'm talking 40 centimeters of snow. So we're
Wow.
talking, snow that's that high. 40 centimeters of snow, and the temperature can go down to as low as -40.
Wow.
So
That's cold.
that's extreme. In those cases, things may shut down. But living in that winter context can be very hard on you psychologically, because it gets dark really,
No sunlight.
really early. And so in the peak of winter, from about 4:30 in the evening, it starts to get dark, and then the sun rises at about 7-ish, 7:30 in the morning. So you have very short time when it comes to daylight, and then now you're on that grind. So you leave for work in the morning, it's dark. By the time you get home,
It's a dark again.
it's dark again. It's cold outside.
Mm-hmm.
You don't really see a lot of people because nobody wants to spend time
Outside.
outside when it's
It's too
cold.
cold.
So you're just kind of shut up in your house for up to 3 months of the year where you're not really going out. You're not
And
really
that can
doing a
cause
lot of things.
depression too.
Of course, of course. Now, and I always like to give both sides of it. So on the flip side of that, there's a lot of activities you can go outside and do in winter. People dress
Ice
up,
skating.
ice skating, snowing, tobogganing.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's a lot of people that love winter and make the best of winter, but it's not for everyone.
True.
So
True.
you have to know what it is that you're going into before you make a decision to move to a place like Montreal. It's not the entire Canada's like
Right.
that, but I'm from Montreal, so
Right.
so like
I
that.
like that. Now you see Lebanese coming to Ghana, Chinese coming to Ghana, and literally paving way to the forest to do whatever business, and understanding that it's mosquitoes here and they are still working every day 24/7 and
Yes.
getting whatever they're getting out of the country, and investing in the continent, even infrastructure and stuff like that. And they are not even from here, if you know what I mean.
Yes.
And you see our brothers, in the diaspora, looking at problems and challenges here and saying that I'm not moving to the continent because my light might go off once in a week. What message will you give to someone with that kind of mindset, and you been experiencing the negative part or even the challenges and overcoming them? What would be a very strong advice you would give to somebody watching at there with that mindset right now?
Well, first thing I'm going to say is that that was one of the things that also motivated me to come here.
Right.
Because I looked at, I'm like you said, the Lebanese are here, and I have a great Lebanese friend.
Right.
Chinese are here, you know, and I'm like, but why are we not
Here.
going there to set up things and to do things?
Right.
And so really what I would say is right now, Africa in general, many places in Africa are developing. And this is the time to get in. Yes, it's going to be rough because there are going to be certain challenges because certain infrastructure is not here. But there's also a beautiful side to what's here as well. So you can get both sides of the coin. But you want to get in now while things are developing. And that's why these other people are here, because they realize that Africa is the future. I mean, that's another reason why I'm here, because I strongly believe that Africa is the future. Because of the resources that are here, that we all know are here, that many other countries around the world are benefiting from. Because of the fact that this is actually one of the safest places in the world to live in terms of what happens that word ain't coming out.
It's meteor. Okay, never
Yes,
mind.
yes. But it's one of the safest places in the world to live when it comes to the weather, and there's not many
okay.
natural disasters that happen here. Other than that, just the budding economies. Like there's so much growth that's happening. For example, here in Ghana, when I first got here, the one thing I noticed is that there's construction everywhere.
Yeah.
People are building buildings. That is the sign of a growing and emerging economy. So you want to get in now while we're at the ground level, so that in the future we can start as a people to be building generational
I
wealth.
like that.
Yes.
Now, when it comes to music, you,
Yes.
you are huge. You are huge on music, right?
Yes.
I was at one of the meetings, a seminar you did where you guys were discussing about how influential music is in terms of, subconsciously telling you what to do. We talked about hip hop, and then we switched back to Afrobeat and how we can, be more cautious of the words we use in music to kind of shape the future and stuff like that. Let's talk a little bit about that and how we can use music
Yes.
as a tool to communicate among ourselves all over the world. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Bring us together and stuff.
So the thing is that well, you introduced me as Dan, which is
Yes.
cool. I'm also known as
Very well,
DJ
DJ.
DJ
Okay.
Serious.
Yes, DJ
Yes.
Serious.
The thing is that one of the main reasons that I got into music is because I realized when I was growing up that I was listening to a lot of music that had a negative influence, and I I was aspiring to be things that had nothing to do with the reality that I was in, and that made me realize the power of music.
Mm.
So me coming here specifically to the continent, to Africa, I look at myself as a person who is trying to use music to uplift people's spirits
Mm.
and to not misuse the power of music.
Mm.
When we look at history, music for us as black people has always been an integral part of our culture, starting with the drum,
Drum, yeah.
you know?
And then Dondo.
Exactly, exactly. So the thing is that when I look at what's happening in mainstream music today, I realize that we're not using music to its full potential.
Mm.
Music can be used to unite people. It can be used to educate people. It can be used to heal people. It can be used for so many different
Mm.
things, but that's not what predominantly it's being used for.
Mm.
And when we look at the influence and the impact that us as African people have had on the entire music spectrum, you know, that just goes to show that if we were to use music correctly,
Mhm.
we can impact and change
Mm.
the entire world.
Mm. Mm. Now seeing Afrochella and stuff like that happen
Yes.
here, Afrobeat is huge.
Yes.
It's huge right now.
Yes.
Burna Boy was performing right here in Ghana just a couple of months ago.
Mhm.
We had Usher here. We
Yes.
had the list is just Chance the Rapper. Everyone is coming to Ghana. Afrobeat is
Yes.
becoming bigger and bigger. It's
Yes.
not happening anywhere. It's happening in Ghana. You've
Yes.
seen that. What kind of message do you get? From seeing all this happen?
I think that again, just like I said before earlier, that the artists are seeing and the record companies are seeing that Africa is the future. And when we look at the mainstream charts right now, some of the top music is Afrobeat
Yeah.
music.
Yeah.
And but I mean that it's always been that way to a certain degree because when we look at hip hop music, black music in general
Yeah.
is always
Very, yeah.
what's on the top. But now we've actually shifted
Mm-hmm.
where we have gone back to the root. We've
Mm-hmm.
gone back to the source. And it's also an untapped market
Right.
because I went to one of the conferences that was here and that was put on by Chance the Rapper.
Yeah.
And he was saying that,
Black Star Line Festival.
exactly, the Black Star Line Festival. I went to the conference that they had just before the show. And one of the things that he was saying is that on their tours, they never were coming to Africa. They would go to Europe, they would go to all these different places,
Right.
but they were never coming to Africa. So the one thing is that it's an untapped market. The second thing is that the trendsetters, the minds, the people are here as well, and that's why I feel that Afrobeat is so popular right now. Is because this is the new wave.
Yeah,
This is the new trend.
I heard there's a guest on the show who is David Aloka. He's a sports journalist, and he said something like back in the UK, if there's a party and you don't play Afrobeat, you being a DJ, you can testify to that.
Yes, yes.
Nobody's coming, or you would have a boring crowd.
Well, but that's what's hot right now.
Yeah.
I mean, Afrobeats are hot right now. I just had a friend of mine from Canada, and he's like, "Oh, send me some Afrobeats,"
Yeah, yeah.
because Afrobeats
Are
are,
there
are
right
super
now.
hot right now.
Wow.
It's the thing, but like I said, I think it's a testament again to the energy of Africa, and what's happening here. We are at the point now kind of getting away from the colonial and the slave mentality and that narrative. And we are now starting to show the world who we truly are. And again, I think it's the wave of the future. And it's gonna continue because we are the source. We are the origin. They say humanity originated
From Africa.
in Africa, in particularly in the Congo, and then we spread out
Yeah.
from there. So we are now at the point where we're going back to that original
I like that.
source.
Now you've seen the opportunities here when it comes to music and other things. What would you say have been some business opportunities or something that you've stumbled upon that people out there right now can probably move back and take some advantage, or make some money for themselves?
Well, one of the things that I've noticed here is that there's a lot of artists here.
Artists. Okay.
Yes, there are a lot of artists here. There are a lot of great artists here. But again, like I mentioned before, you're missing some of the infrastructure. So people that have knowledge in radio, people that have knowledge in sound engineering, people that have knowledge in people that are just artists as well. There's a lot of young talent here to work with. There are a lot of people that we can take and showcase to the world. And it's a different sound, it's a unique sound. And particularly here in Ghana, I realized that a lot of the music that's being produced here is not being heard outside whatsoever. You know, so there is an untapped market here that needs to be developed, but that can be taken to the rest of the world.
Oh, I like that. If you do have one thing that you, if you're given the opportunity, you change, what would that be on the continent or even here in Ghana that you've experienced?
If I had one thing that I would change, the one thing that I would change really is people's mentality and people's belief.
Oh.
To realize that the value of themselves and the value that they have around them. That's the one thing I've noticed being on the continent is that I don't always think people, because of some of the conditions that people grow up in, people live in, they don't see the value around them. They're not seeing it from the bigger picture. They're just seeing it from their life experience. So if that would be the thing I could change, would be able to show people the value that they have around them.
Wow, that's powerful. Now, guys, we are almost at the end of the conversation, and we've been talking. We've had an amazing conversation. If you're
Yes.
watching, you know that it's deep. We've talked a lot. You're a genius. I must tell you that. I've seen your seminars, and the things that you say is really deep. It comes from the root, and it doesn't come easy. It comes from research, meaning you've been reading a lot. And Charlie, if you're watching this, be inspired to be like him when knowing, because I know people who don't know who they are and they would argue to the core, but they've never read any book, right? Just saying that. But yeah, my name is Hayford once again. He's DJ Serious. Is that how they say
Yes,
it?
DJ Serius. Yes.
He's very good DJ. I've been at Jexo where you were performing, you were playing music and stuff like that. People are watching right now. They
Yes.
might get in contact with you. You're huge in music. You do beats as well. I learned that too. So if someone wants to kind of use your services or reach out to you, what is the best way that they can?
I mean, well, you can reach me on Instagram at DJ Serius, and Serius is spelled Serius. You can see some of my stuff on YouTube. I'm on Twitter. You know, all the social media. In terms of, I don't mind giving out. I'll give out my Ghanaian number, which is
Okay.
059 720 7876, and you guys can reach me that way as well. You know, I'm there. I'm accessible. My number one goal as a DJ is to uplift people's spirits with music, and every time I go out, I try to assess what's going on. I know the songs that are popular, but I also know the message that's behind them. Now, depending on the context of the place that I'm in, there's certain songs that I'll play. But if I have the choice, there's certain songs that I would never play
Because the message that
because of the message. Because what people don't realize is that what you consume is what you become. And when we look at our society and we look at some of the issues that we have, a lot of it has to do with what's being
music.
consumed.
Let's talk about the gun violence in the US. Now that you brought that up, is it because you can hear lyrics and then the guy is just talking about how he put up a machine gun and then spread his gun, like, you know what I'm saying, and killing everybody, and you might need an umbrella to save your life when he does that. Hearing something like that in the lyrics and then that is the music and people jump to that, what does it do to the mind or the attitude, like you just mentioned there?
Well, in some ways, the first thing it does is it desensitizes you to these things. So it makes people, especially people that are living in an environment that reflects their reality,
Yeah.
it makes them think that that is normal. And that's an issue. And then you have people that don't live in that reality that now idealize that type of life. And that's an issue as well. The thing is, there's not always the balance to show you that, okay, this may be somebody's reality, but that's not how things are supposed to be. And there's oftentimes not a counter to that type of thought, because I do believe that in freedom of expression, and artists should be able to free to express what it is that they're feeling, what it is that they're experiencing, and whatnot. But when it becomes that that's the narrative all the time, and that's the mainstream narrative all the time, it can become very destructive because people think that that's the reality. And the other side of that too is when people perceive us now, they think that that's how black people are because that becomes a representation of us. And you have and the other crazy thing about music is that, especially when you look at America and in Canada, the major consumers of this music are are not black people. They're people of other races. So they're now looking at us and taking that as that is the total spectrum of black people when it's not.
Wow.
It doesn't show us in who we are in our entirety.
I
So
like that. If you do have a final message for people out there watching us right now, listening to your story and how you moved from Canada and living here in Ghana with your family, they've listened to your story. If you do have a message to people like that out there, or even willing to come here, or even a general message, what would that message be?
the message would be that anything is possible. Um, Follow your dreams. Identify your mission and your purpose here on this planet and live it out. If it means that you have to move to another country or another continent or whatever it is, you can do that. If it means that you have to break down barriers and stereotypes or whatever wherever you are, you can do that. It's just whatever you feel is in you that you need to share with with the world, you need to go ahead and do it because the world needs it.
I like that. Thank you so much for talking to me. It's been a wonderful conversation.
Yes,
Thank you so
likewise.
much. Guys, if you're watching and you did enjoy the episode, I want you to like the video, subscribe, share to friends and family, and comment down below. Now, once again, liking the video is just not like liking for liking's sake. It promotes the video to a wider audience, right? So if you love this kind of episode and you really enjoy it, like it. If you don't like it, nobody's going to see this video. And whatever narrative that people want, would be, promoted. Maybe you might not like that. So if you like this, like it, what I'm saying, and then share so that we can also, reach the wider audience and get more people to see, what opportunities that are on the continent. So without further ado, let's just say bye-bye to them.
Yes.
All right. So
Take
peace
care.
out. Bye-bye.
My name is Dan, aka DJ Serius, and you are watching the Diaspora Transition on Web Nation Africa. Definitely like and subscribe.